Welcome back to the shop. I've got this little tack hammer, I guess. Maybe it might be shoemaker, cobbler hammer. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to do some research on it. But anyway, what I want to do is go ahead and start getting it cleaned up. I really like this treatment here on the end. I think that's pretty neat. And the fact that it sort of smeared up the handle, I'm not sure whether that's original or whether that maybe somebody did this, whoever owned it before. But anyway, what I think is interesting about this is that it sort of presents a problem in terms of restoring, because the tools that I use to clean up the metal and the tools that I use to clean up the wood are, similar in the sense that I'll be sanding or buffing or whatever. But, I don't want to necessarily keep these together if I don't have to. So, rightly or wrongly, I think what I'm going to try to do is pull the stake out of the top of this and pound this head off of here so that I can work with this, because I'll have some problems getting into these corners and whatnot with the handle. It wouldn't be impossible, and if I feel like I'm going to go backwards by doing this and I change gears, I reserve the right to do that. But right now I think I'm going to try to pull this stake out of the top of it and then work on these as two individual projects and see how things go along. So let's get started. I've got that little pin at the top. Alright, well that absolutely is not coming out of there. That is just in there like no other, and I'm going to do what I can with it the way it is right now before I go backwards too far, and maybe later on, I don't know, we'll see how it shakes out, but right now it's not feeling like the right thing to do to keep pounding on this. It's fit in there really nicely, so alright, I'm bring it over to the sander. Alright, I absolutely screwed that up. I just series of bad decisions. Anyway, it's toothpaste is out of the tube now. Let's see what I can do with it. But my little tack hammer is done. I painted the bottom. I polished the heck out of the top. I'll do the Scout Crafter finger trick. It's got a pretty good shine on it. Took all the rough spots out of the edge as much as I could. There's a couple inclusions from the casting, and I reused the original tack on the top and ground that down about as much as I thought was appropriate. And I'm going to let this cure completely for a couple days. I went ahead and used like a redwood stain on the handle, and then just dipped this and the Sherwin-Williams paint that I used on the Mueller box. Initially this had been red, but another tool maker or tool restorer out there, I'm not going to mention his name, but really likes red. So I'm going to try to not stomp on his territory and use colors other than red in my stuff. And I think the blue looks pretty cool. I think all in all it's a pretty neat little restoration, so I'm just gonna let me talk a little bit about it. I waffled back and forth about the removal of the handle. Fitting handles is very difficult with larger things, with axes. Fitting the handle on this was much easier because I was able to just whittle it down with a pocket knife. I didn't want to necessarily try to work around the wood while I polished the head, and it made my life easier to go ahead and remove this. I had initially tried to remove the stake and pop the head off. That didn't work. I ended up sawing it off and then resanding the profile with my random orbital, and that really worked nicely for this. I'm not much for hand sanding. So anyway, I cut off the top, drilled out the center, saved the original tack that was in there, reused that, and then I used the Bob Smith Industries to go ahead and epoxy all that in place. So that's immortalized in there. That's not going anywhere. And you can see yourself. So anyway, neat little project. This is going to be something that might not get a lot of use in the shop, but I'm going to wait for everything to cure for a couple more days, and then I'm going to come over this with a nice coat of paste wax and sort of lock everything together. So anyway, that's going to get set aside in some place that's relatively safe. And over here. And the next projects, I think what I'm going to do is, because I've got quite a few piling up, I might start to do 2 at a time. And not to take away from anything, but maybe they complement one another. And I'll talk about the challenges that maybe one presented that another didn't, even though they're similar in shape or function or something like that. And in this case, we've got a small set of duckbill pliers that I can't quite make the name out on, and then these, what I think are tin snips. So these are made by Utica. So I'm going to do these. They'll be my next round, and probably a couple days before I get around to finishing these. But anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and have a good night.